Can we talk where this need for things to be right and good comes from? So I wouldn't think of it as a need, but I know what you mean. I'm just saying, just to be specific about like how we're using the word need today, or at least how we'd use it if we're working with nonviolent communication. Just a reminder for everybody that a need, a universal human need in that frame, is really pointing to an intrinsic motivation, right? Like a need for fuel, like something that your system needs in order to survive or thrive. That's how that word is being used. And the word need culturally is used in so many ways. I just want to clarify. So in the sense of an intrinsic motivation that helps us survive and thrive, it's not necessarily a need. However, I will say that we are wired to perceive contrast. That is a need. You do need to know whether something is hot or cold. You do need to know whether something is poisonous or not poisonous. You do need to know whether you're thirsty or hungry. Like, there are ways in which your physical being needs to orient on the planet. And one of the ways that we orient is through our senses, and our senses give us a continuum with contrasts. And there are things that we approach and things we avoid. So this, and think about how your brain is wired with a right and a left hemisphere, right? Connected by the corpus callosum. Like, we are wired for contrast. The contrasts are incredibly useful for discernment. Really, really useful for discernment. I prefer this, I don't prefer this. I want this, I don't want that. My need is met, my need is unmet. Contrasts are valuable. Now, depending on, I'm not going to go into a whole bunch of, sort of history and anthropology and sociology and, all of the reasons, like how this happened, but I'm going to point to a few just kind of quick, big words, and then you can go do your own research and study. Domination systems, which are dominator hierarchies, where a few people have resources at the top and many people below have less access to resources. Dominator hierarchies developed thousands of years ago and became codified through various types of religions, not all religions, domination religions, codified the idea of right and wrong into a morality. And then if you look at also the rise of patriarchy, that has also codified a particular kind of a domination system. So you can begin looking at sort of social movements. These are sort of just some smatterings. It's much more complicated than this. And most of us, where we are at this point in history, for the kinds of people who are on these calls generally, most of us were raised in patriarchal domination cultures with a history. If you're white in particular, or if you have European descent in particular, you also come from a history of colonialism, where your ancestors very much believed, our ancestors, mine, I'll speak about myself, very much believed that they were superior to the rest of the world and that they were doing good in the world by going off into all of these other countries, taking land and teaching everybody to be just like us. So narcissism spread everywhere, okay? And that comes with a lot of entitlement and a lot of sort of assumption that my way is the right way and your way is the wrong way. And the way that relationships then get framed is that my right way is inherently superior to yours. And therefore, anything that is different between you and me must be something you need to change. So let me help you. Okay, so this became embedded in a lot of our psychology, especially I speak now mostly as a European person. So that's just because of the way that history played out. And I'm not going to get into all of the social dynamics because this is a can of worms that we don't need to get into today. But this idea of right and wrong is deeply embedded in how we are raised. And what I would invite you to do in a practical way is begin examining what beliefs you're really attached to. And then any belief that you're attached to, you can ask yourself very gently, how might this have made sense in a different time, in a different place, in a different culture, in a different generation? And what need were people trying to meet by developing this belief? And does it still work today? And if not, how do these beliefs need to be updated so that they can be more in alignment with what serves life, peace on the planet, love, freedom, integrity, whatever it is that you believe in. I hand that to you. You get to decide what your values are. And then you get to have a look at, do these beliefs, do these assumptions work in alignment? Do they support and nurture our collective living into these values or not? And then if we want to think about it through a nonviolent communication lens, we think about, what are the deep, universally human needs that we're all trying to meet? And how do we update our cultural strategies to be more in alignment with those needs? If you are wanting to live in a world that works better for all people, which not everybody wants.